Hi, this is Eric Martin with BoardGameGeek. I am here with Clarissa and James Wilson and Dan Yarrington from Starling Games. Clarissa and James, possibly not the young assistant there, are the designers of Flourish, upcoming game. James, of course, is known for designing Everdell, and hope you can give an overview of this game. First off, is this connected to Everdell in any way, just so people have a founding for what's going on, and then maybe get an overview of the game world and what we're doing?
Sure. It's not connected to Everdell, unfortunately, unless you want to suppose that the critters are hiding somewhere in the garden there, and that's fine. So Flourish is a unique spin on a card drafting game. And kind of the inspiration behind this was my wife and I both enjoy things like Seven Wonders and Sushi Go, some of your kind of classic card drafting games. And being a game designer, every time I play a game, I sort of ask, well, what if it was this way? What if it was this way? And we were playing a card drafting game and just kind of were thinking, you know, what if we could just keep these cards and just only pass one instead of playing one and passing all of them? So that was kind of like the question that we had. Would there be a way to do that? And so that was the thing that sort of led to the creation of what became Flourish. And so it's a unique spin. It's sort of a inverse of card drafting, where you do essentially keep most of your cards and only pass a few. We wanted it to be a game that could be very quick to learn, and that would seem simple, but would have a lot of depth to it to come back to, which is, you know, kind of the hallmark that you're going after. But on top of that, theme is really important to us, obviously, with Everdell. That's shown through. So I was co-designing it with my wife, and we wanted it to be a theme that we would both enjoy, and we both enjoy gardening. And so that was kind of what we wanted to capture through cards and all of these concepts that you're doing. Did you want to talk a little bit about kind of some of the garden concept? And
so I think with a lot of the cards, we wanted to capture that that dream garden feel, where you're in the middle of winter and you're looking through all the garden catalogs and the magazines and stuff, and you're dreaming about how you want to plan your garden. And so that's kind of the idea behind all the cards you're holding. You want to plan your garden, and you want to make it look the best that you can. And I know that Dan May spent a lot of time on, he's the graphics designer, and he spent a lot of time trying to tweak the cards right, just to make a lot of the art shine through and give a really clear presentation.
Yeah. So what we have here then is the signature edition that we're presenting here. And so basically what that means is it contains 2 expansions. And so all of the items that are up there at the top, those cool little buildings, and then the little mini cards, I'm not sure where the mini cards are, right there in the middle. Yep. So those are the Friends and Follies. We can slide all that stuff up, and I'll talk about that later. So those will go up out of the way there. Yep, that one can go out of the way too. That's fine. And then all of these cool little buildings that you see up there at the top of the screen, we're going to come back to those later as well, so we don't have to worry about paying attention for those.
I'll just hold my hand.
So basically,
I won't even see them.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, just pretend they're not there. We'll get to them in time.
That's right.
The ribbons, we'll discuss those too in time. So can we put some of the cards up there close? Do we have that ability to do that? That'd be great.
Yes, I have a green screen.
Oh, look at that. Very cool. Okay. All right. So in this game, you're going to have 6 cards in hand, and you're going to choose one of those cards to play. Everyone will do this simultaneously. That card will go face down in front of you. And then you're going to choose 2 cards to pass, and they're going to go one to your neighbor on your right and one to your neighbor on your left. You'll have 3 cards remaining in your hand. So you can kind of, yeah, that works. We can slide the top cards down again. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, mystery hand who's moving cards.
That's right.
So on the side, oh, there we go. Perfect. On the left side of the card, there is a series of symbols, and most of these will just be one color, but some of them, like that one you see on the left here, has 2 different colors. Okay, so it's basically 5 different suits, and so it's 5 different colors. Those symbols are going to be important. That's going to determine what you're scoring off of. At the top of the card, you can see I keep pointing, but you can't see where I'm pointing. I know it doesn't help. At the top of the card is the end of round scoring. So the game will take place over 4 rounds. So at the end of the round, that card, which is a lawn, will score 1 point for every mushroom symbol that you have in your garden. Okay, then all the way down at the bottom of the card is the end of game scoring. So all the way at the very end of the game, that card that you're pointing at is going to score, yeah, either one. That one will score 2 points for every hive that are in your neighbor's gardens. Okay, so what your neighbors play is really important in this drafting game. And so what you pass to them, there'll be a lot of consideration of that, because some of the cards you pass to them, if they play them, you may be able to score off of them. And also you'll have to pay attention to what they're scoring off of as the game goes. Okay, so a couple other things on the cards. The bottom left there of that second card over, that's a path. And so it's a purple path in particular, which is important for other cards. Whereas the one right beside it is a lawn. And so just the symbols that matter. And then there's a hive, whereas the hive is going to score up there on the top left of the hive. It will be 2 points for every red rose in one of your neighbor's gardens. That line divides it, so it's either one.
That's right. The
so if we
iconography
want to
is very clear.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say the iconography is very clear. I mean, if you have played a number of games, you were reading this immediately for, yes. I knew that was either or, just from the way it's set up there. It's very easy to read.
That's good. You would think that that would be simple to figure out, but we spent so much time trying to figure out how to say these things as clearly. So I'm glad that that came across. Yeah. And there was a number of factors because we wanted it to be language independent, so there was no text to have to read or anything. So just to get it all condensed down quickly was the goal. We have a couple other cool little features that are there on the table. There's those scoreboards. Can you put one of those up there? Yeah, one of those. Cool. Okay. So this is how you're going to keep track of your score. And obviously this can go up to 999, but that's not going to happen over the course of one game. Maybe if you played 100 games back to back or something like that, I suppose, which you could. So this is kind of a cool little thing that we kind of played around with ideas, like, should we have a score track? Should we just have people write down their score? But we wanted it to be intuitive and not get in the way and also feel cool. So this is kind of a picture of your garden here. Yeah, so it'll spin, you'll keep track of your score as you go. And we do have a variant built into the game where it encourages players to do 3 games back to back. So you maintain your score over the course of the whole game, which the score wheel works perfect for that.
Okay.
So this has a couple unique things too, as well as that it's 1 to 7 players. So there is a solo mode, and since the whole game is simultaneous, the play count or the time frame basically stays the same even as you go up to 7 players, which was kind of a goal that we were really hunting for. It's about 20-30 minutes. Yeah, 20-30 minutes per game. Now, yeah, you can put one of those up there, that wall. Yeah, so these cool little 3D walls here, this is what you will pass the cards over. And that is important because you need to know, remember you have to pass 1 to each player. So you need to know that you have passed it to each player on both sides. So one of these little 3D walls is going to sit in between each player. And it also is kind of a nice little thematic idea that you're passing information over the wall, or perhaps you're like giving to your neighbor some plants that you don't really want anymore. Everyone's kind of had that happen before in our life anyways. So if we want to, you can take a couple cards and we could just go through a turn or two. Do we have 2? The mysterious hands who don't talk, do they talk?
Yes, Nikki talks. Right. I don't know if Lincoln's around to play as well, or
I can talk. Lincoln is. Do you want to try this? He's occupied.
Oh, it's okay. That's fine. That's fine. So we can just kind of show an example. Yeah, we can just look at your hand there. Right. So you'd begin the game like this, where you have the 6 cards. So you're looking at a couple different factors here. One is obviously, from what I can see anyways, you have a couple purple symbols there, and you may be able to find a way to score off of those. So you may be considering that you want to hold on to those, or you may decide you want to go a different route completely. Really where it's going to come down to is, did we freeze?
Nope.
There she is. Okay, yeah. You have to decide a couple things. One is what card are you going to play this turn? And so you'll have to play that one face down. And then you have to pass to both of your neighbors. So you'll have to choose 2 of them to pass.
Okay. And of course, any first game that you play is going to be somewhat random.
Sure. So one would go to your right and one would go to your left. Right, and then you would play one face down. Just go ahead and do any of them. Just kind of show a turn sequence, right? So everybody at the table is going to do this, and now everybody's going to reveal the one card that they played. Yeah, you can just grab those and just pretend that they passed you as well. Right, and so now go ahead and take from those other two hands and place them over the wall because they would have passed to you. That works. That's fine. So at this point, you're not scoring yet. Everyone's going to see what cards they played. Oh, I see you've got, you know, 2 purple symbols now, so I don't want to pass you anything that's going to help with purple. Or, wow, you have 2 purple symbols and I have a hive, which will score off of purple cards, so maybe I am going to pass you purple cards so that later I can try and score off of them if you'll play them and I'll hold on to that hive. And so this will continue until you've played 3 cards, and that will be the end of that round. And then all of the cards that have end of round scoring will score. So that would be cards that have abilities at the top of the card.
Okay.
You can see some of those.
Nikki's going to crush herself.
She is.
Yes. So you play through the
As
round.
it-
It's going to be.
He's going to win this,
Yeah.
She's got it.
One way or the other.
or the other.
So-
One way or the other, or the other.
So kind of an interesting dynamic to the game is that as the game goes on, obviously you're having more of these symbols in your garden, so it becomes harder and harder to figure out what you want to pass to your neighbor. And that was kind of another concept that we really wanted to see if we could dig into with card drafting, is that what your neighbors play is actually extremely important in this game, as opposed to, at least in our experience, some card drafting games, you kind of don't really have much power over what they're doing, so you just sort of pass whatever, whereas every card, the value of it and the weight of the card becomes more and more important as the game goes on, and so that decision of what to pass just becomes deliciously challenging and hard as the game goes on anyways. Yeah.
So you'll have 3 cards in front of you at the end of the first round. You have the end of round scoring, and then refill your hand to 6 and do it again.
No, so then you're going to draw those 2 cards again that were passed, and you draw 1 card from the deck every single time. I forgot to mention that. So basically, every single time you're going to have 6 cards to make a decision from. The trick behind the whole thing is 3 cards you get to keep the whole entire game, but you get to choose which ones those are going to be, because, and it'll cycle in and out as you decide, because for the final 4th round, you will have your hand of 5 cards is what it'll end up being, and you get to choose 3 of those, and you play all of them simultaneously. So you sort of get to build up this final hand of the whole entire game as it goes, where that's harkening back to that concept that we were talking about. Is there a way to make a drafting game where you sort of keep your hand the whole game and you just are passing one and one? And, you know, through some of these concepts, we were able to pull it off with passing to both players at the same time. Gives you that sense, and also the fact that every card, the weight of the value of it becomes more and more important. Whereas in like something like Sushi Go, you play all the cards and then they clear out, and then you do another round. All you this time,
Right.
and so they become, you know, more valuable as it goes on.
Okay.
And the end game scoring on those cards just becomes more and more important, and that's the bottom right part of the card there.
Okay. So it's a stock game in disguise, effectively.
A stock game, is that what you said?
Yes. I mean, you're building up your holdings bit by bit, and then you've got the surprise reveal at the end where you went to your bank deposit box and you pulled out your last 3 and just crush those down all at once and see how things work out for you. I don't know. Just thinking of it in terms of,
Yeah, I mean,
there's lots of different ways to think of what's going on.
There is, and we found, you know, kind of with playtesting and that sort of thing, that it takes a moment for people to sort of wrap their head around it, because it does feel like backwards drafting in that sense. Instead of just, I play 1 card and throw them all, no, you sort of keep them and just give 1. But, you know, it's that was what we were going for, and we're really pleased with it. It's an easy to get into drafting game, but we feel like it has a lot to kind of enjoy thinking about and puzzling out, and more strategic than it looks on the surface.
Okay. So before we get to the expansions, you mentioned solo play. How does that work?
So in solo play, it will be you and 1 opponent, and the opponent has a little deck of cards and you're going to be passing them cards, and they're going to be passing you cards out of their little deck of cards, and they'll be shuffled. And you have, oh, I do have another thing to mention in that. I'll come back to that in just a second. But you have medals that you're trying to achieve by a score. So your score is whatever your score is minus their score at the end of the game. And yeah, and so the solo works really great and smooth, and it takes about 10 or 15 minutes to play it. So it's kind of one of those, set it up and you can go again and again and again and again and cycle through it and see how, you know, if you can understand and control what they have over there and determine what they could potentially play. But yeah, we were able to make it where it is still drafting. It's still very similar rules. You're passing cards, you're getting cards, you're playing them, and with the solo. One other thing I forgot to mention, which is extremely important, is the game is competitive and it can also be cooperative. So the rules that I just taught you there are the exact same rules for cooperative. And the whole twist behind it is that instead of trying to pass cards that you don't want them to play, you're trying to pass cards to them that you want them to play. And it really flips your mind around completely on how you're trying to play the game. And which do you like better, cooperative or?
I like cooperative.
You like cooperative better?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like the competitive better, which we found in our playtesting was about a 50-50 split, is that people, even the same people that say, well, I like the competitive or I like the cooperative better. And the cooperative has a list of medals that you're trying to achieve, where like the gold medal is really hard to pull off. And it will just take that perfect situation of everybody giving each other the right things. You cannot share any information about what you have in your hand, but you can discuss everything that's been played on the table. And so we found that to be kind of a delight for people with, 6 to 7 people. For the big groups, they'll sit down and just puzzle this thing out, and they're passing cards. They try to get all the way around the table because they want somebody to play it. So yeah, 1 to 7 players, competitive or cooperative, same rules.
How do the goals work for the cooperative? You have a certain point total that everyone needs to achieve, or something else?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So it's in the back of the rule book there, and it is medals that you need to achieve as a group. The whole score needs to be achieved as a group. So, like for instance, in a 3-player game, to get the gold medal, you need 315 points total as a group.
Okay. All right. So it's not individual. You can't point to someone in particular and say that they failed, because effectively you all failed by
we
not
tried
helping
that,
each other
and
enough.
that did not feel good.
I can believe it.
Yeah. We didn't have anyone at the table, getting 20 points and bombing it for the whole entire group. So it was determined just the best way to do it is just a total overall score for everybody. But yeah, the gold medal is really, really challenging to pull off, and it's really satisfying when you finally get to it. I can talk about the expansions here, unless you had anything else there, Eric, to sort of question on it.
No, this will be good. We got 4 minutes left. Cover what's included in the signature edition, and then obviously available separately on the standard retail edition, I imagine.
Sure. So the little mini cards that you have right there, you can flip those over. This is called the Friends expansion. And so you can put them on the big screen there. So at the beginning of the game, you will be dealt 2 of these, and you keep them secret. Unless you're playing cooperatively, then they're face up. So you keep them secret, and then at the end of the game, you get to choose one of these cards that you will score. So you only get to score one of them. So if you have the horse up there, then you get 4 additional points for every path that you have in your garden, or the bats 5 points for every tree that you have in your garden. But you only get to play one of them. You only get to choose which one you will score. So that's called the Friends expansion. And then the other little 3D buildings, if you want to put one of those up there, or one of each or something. These are called follies. Eric, do you know what a folly is?
I know what a folly is, but not a folly. I know a camera
so
folly.
Follies are things that you would build in gardens that are purely aesthetically pleasing constructions or buildings, and some of them are actually built to look like ruined buildings, but they weren't actually ruined buildings. So it's a real thing. Yeah. Anyway, so this is the Follies expansion, and so you will begin with one of all of 5 of these at the beginning of the game, and then at the end of the round, you get to determine which of these you're going to place in your garden. So they have to be placed on a card that has that symbol, that matching symbol. So like the purple one could go on one of those. And then at the end of the game, they are going to score based off of adjacent cards that have that matching symbol. So you get 5 points for every symbol that on the card that it's on, and all of the adjacent ones. So when you play with the follies, adjacency and where cards are at matters, whereas before it didn't. And yep, so it kind of really mixes it up and adds a different layer to it.
So with the adjacency mattering, are you building only a row, or are you building two-dimensionally?
Nope. Right, so it'll be 3 rows down. So 3 cards, 3 cards, 3 cards. And then the final 3 cards that you play at the end of the game, you get to put anywhere around the border of your garden.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
So it's a 3x3. And then at the end of the game, again, you have those 3 cards that you've been holding in your hand the whole time, which have been shifting and alternating out. And those you get to place anywhere on the edge of your garden, so you could score on the corners of where you placed a folly.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Very interesting addition there. Just the adjacency mattering is a nice little touch. Additional element of complication in there. So lots of people in the chat talking about how beautiful the cards are. It's very nice production in there. When will this be available?
Dan, that's you.
Sure.
Right.
So given the status of production and all these sorts of things, we're being very careful not to state when things will be available without knowing for sure. But we are, we have some, sort of pre-press copies. So we're at that stage, and we haven't gone to sort of full production yet. But yeah, gorgeous art by, we have most of the cards done by April, Naomi, and Christina. So April Borschelt, Naomi Robinson, and Christina Chi, and then Dan May did a lot of, who's the art director for this project, did a lot of the iconography and the boards and that sort of stuff. And so the availability, we're just doing the signature edition for right now, which has the signatures, both Clarissa and James on there, as you can see, in the nice gold foil. So this is the only edition we're doing for the launch, just to sort of keep things focused on those early adopters. So we haven't announced that there'll be another version, but this does come with those 2 expansions that are not included. And it does add a little bit of heft to the game, both physically, because there's lots of punch board, and also just mechanically. So you can start out with just the base, play real smoothly with just the cards, and then you can add those layers of the friends and follies later on. So we're hoping for fall, is sort of when we'd have another announcement about that. We are going to be showing off a lot of the artwork, debuting that on BoardGameGeek. So if you want to go to the Flourish page on BGG, you can become a fan and subscribe there, and then you'll get notices whenever we post some of that new artwork over the coming many weeks and months, until we actually get to a launch. So hopefully by around like Spiel Digital time, you'll see some, final announcements about the timeline. But given the state of production and shipping and all that stuff and potential lockdowns that might be coming again, we're just being very cautious about that. So it'll be a nice respite, I think, after all of what we've all been dealing with, to just either by yourself sit and build a nice garden, or with your friends, you can do that together. So I think it'll be a well worth the wait. And they've done a lot of great work on this. So thanks to Clarissa and James for that. Thanks to Dan May, did a lot of the development on this, the art direction, and obviously for the artists and all of our playtesters and all that. You can see all those in the credits, which will have that rule book coming up to BGG as well, if it's not already there.
All right. Thank you very much, Dan, Clarissa, James, for an early look at Flourish coming from Starling Games. Greatly appreciate it. And we'll say goodnight to the 4 of you now. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.